Hello guys, and thanks for tuning in on today's episode of Let's Talk About Cars. And on today's episode of Cars at 100, we're gonna talk about very fast cars. We're gonna talk about Bugattis. There are two Bugattis. There was this first Bugatti, if you remember, Bugatti Veyron back in the day. Not back in the day, but there were actually three Bugattis, three fast Bugattis that people could buy, and they were produced for general public. First Bugatti was Super Sport. You know that Bugatti Super Sport was the first car, if you know, that produced a V16 engine, that had the V16 engine and produced 550 horsepower, actually close to 600. And that engine was mated to 4 turbochargers, if you can believe that. Still at that time, long time ago, it was in the 90s, that car had the twin turbochargers. And the same situation went for the different engine that Bugatti produced later on, which was Bugatti Veyron. Now that engine produced, which was also twin quad turbo, it produced more than 1000 horsepower, 1000 plus horsepower. Now that engine was good for 2.50 to 60. Later on was produced the Bugatti Super Sport, so that actually makes 4 Bugattis now. I got my count wrong there, but 4 Bugattis. So there was Super Sport, first Bugatti, then there was Veyron, then there was Bugatti Veyron Super Sport. Now Super Sport was different. It was more lightweight, raw carbon fiber body, lighter. Super Sport just weighed 4,044 pounds, if you can believe that. Everybody thought that car was actually light, but Bugattis were actually very heavy. So Bugatti Veyron was heavy because of all the engine parts, and engine in the back was actually very heavy. The actual body was not that heavy. The engine is very big and powerful. That's why it took a lot of weight, and engineering and all the suspension and steel components had to be still included in the car, and that's why it was still heavy car. But the performance was not really touched, because benchmark car for high speed was Bugatti Veyron. When it first came out, it was ridiculous. It was the first hypercar, if you can say, that was produced in the world. There was Ferrari Enzo, there was Carrera GT, they were astonishingly fast. There was Saleen S7. There were crazy fast cars, but when Bugatti Veyron came out, it just took it to a whole another level. So when actually recently brand new Bugatti Chiron came out, also took a step even further, because it achieved 1500 horsepower on a little bit different engine, same layout, same quad turbochargers that made the Bugatti so famous in the past. They still included this and still have made that engine around the brand new body that Chiron has. Now Chiron is a faster vehicle, of course, than the Bugatti Veyron, because they had to, Bugatti Veyron Super Sport, and because they had to correct all the flaws that, if you can believe, Bugatti Veyron had, in order to achieve even more, much faster speed than actually Bugatti Veyron Super Sport did in the past. So Chiron, the one that came out recently, the torque figures were different. Actually, even though the engine's the same, the horsepower is different, the torque figures are different. Now in terms of the torque, I can tell you right away, 1479 pound-feet of torque is available for Chiron right now. Compare that to the Bugatti Veyron. That Bugatti Veyron has only 1106 torques. If you can see the difference there. It's not huge, but 300 torque for some cars, that's a lot, because even though Bugatti Veyron doesn't really have that much difference in terms of acceleration compared to the old one, still much more forceful acceleration when you press the gas pedal, because the car propels to 60 even faster than 2.5 seconds. It does that in 2.2, 2.3 seconds. So it's one of the fastest accelerating cars out there on the market right now. In terms of the weight, you know, Chiron unfortunately is heavier. Perhaps maybe when Chiron Super Sport comes out, it can take weight further down. Now Super Sport weighed 4,044 pounds. Chiron, however, weighs 4,400 plus pounds. So that you can imagine how much. So that's 400 pounds roughly more than the Veyron Super Sport. The reason why, because Chiron is more of a luxury, if you can believe that, if you can tell. It's very luxurious vehicle at the same time. The car is very quality type of car, and as you can see here on the pictures that I'm posting, the car is absolutely luxurious. And the thing about these cars is that they're not just fast in speed or acceleration, they're overall very driver engaged machines. So you have this crazy good looking interior, plush materials, you have this insane engine that produces 1500 horsepower, you have this immense torque, you have the weight, you have the presence on the road. Bugatti Veyron and Chiron both deliver this super feeling to a driver who can afford this car at the price level that the car is. It's more than $2 million, that car, and not everybody can get that car. And that's why it's so rare, that's why it's so special, and that's why only chosen people can afford this car. That's why that car is the top. Nothing will come ever close to it unless it has a huge history, coach built quality, built in limited quantities, costs a lot of money, a lot of engineering, a Boeing technology, which I'm going to talk about right now, also being light compared to every other vehicle that produces that much power, also being not as light but still being that fast, which is very important at the same time, because even though it's not 5,000, 6,000 pounds like some SUVs that drive fast or some fast vehicles or sedans, this super sport vehicle is not as light but still pretty fast when you need to. And they both have two keys, they both have special engineering, they both have Boeing parts. Bugatti owned Boeing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and some of the parts Bugatti was building Boeing parts. So Bugatti Boeing bin of parts was used in order to build the Veyron and the Chiron. So you can imagine how much technology this car has. You can imagine how much quality it has. You can imagine how much sense of speed and sense of actual being a machine on the road that this car delivers. This car delivers absolutely immense type of feeling in every level. And that's why it's important to know that these cars are just gonna get to the point where they're gonna be confronted, like I said in the Porsche video. In what way? They're gonna be in competition. I think Ferrari needs to step their game up, build something like this, build something with 1,200 horsepower, maybe 1,500 horsepower. There will be a fan base and there will be customer base that can afford these vehicles, undoubtedly. So I think Aston Martin needs to do the same thing. I think Porsche needs to do the same thing, and I think they keep doing it. I think something that's gonna be faster than 918 and will be faster than Ferrari's own LaFerrari is gonna be something that's gonna be as special as the Bugatti Veyron. But for now, a lot of car companies need to raise their bar in terms of how they're gonna approach Bugattis, for example. But today I just wanted to mention these two Bugattis, latest Bugattis. Super Sport and the Chiron, because they're the latest Bugattis that are still sought after. Even the older Bugattis are still sought after, but they're not as quality based as the Chiron and Veyron. So let me know what you think about of today's episode. What do you think about Bugattis? And I don't know, I just feel like they already need to come out with Bugatti Chiron Super Sport, and I think maybe in a year or two we're gonna see that car, and believe it or not, it's gonna produce more than 1700 horsepower, and I can't wait until that number drops and people drive that car. You know, and I see the videos about that car, so I look forward to that. Let me know what you think about the Bugattis, and what is your take on this hyper cars being hyper way before hyper cars even were named hyper cars. Also question, food for thought. Okay, see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. This was Cars at 100.